Ultralight Practice Exam 2. Question. If a flight itinerary contains a search and rescue time, pilots must report their arrival to the responsible person as soon as practicable after landing, but not later than the SAR time on the flight itinerary, SAR being search and rescue. If a pilot's radio receiver is inoperative, what light signal should be expected if the tower clears him for takeoff? Steady green. Which of the following statements is true concerning the performance of aerobatics? No aerobatics are permitted below 2,000 feet AGL. In which type of airspace listed below can a pilot request and receive a special VFR clearance? In a control zone. What are the weather minima for VFR flight in a control zone? 3 miles ground visibility, 500 feet vertically, and 1 mile horizontally from clouds, and 500 feet AGL. That's a control zone. An aerodrome with an elevation of 400 feet has a special circuit height of 1,500 AGL. What will the altimeter read when flying the proper VFR circuit height? 1,900 feet. What is the minimum altitude a pilot may fly over built-up areas of any city? 1,000 feet above or 2,000 feet horizontally from the highest obstacle? The maneuvering area of an aerodrome is that area used for taxiing, taking off, and landing. What must be inscribed on the fireproof identification plate required in every aircraft? The date of manufacture. In this illustration, which aircraft has the right of way? Number 1, because it's to the right of the other aircraft. And they're both engine-driven aircraft. When proceeding in accordance with a clearance or instruction, the pilot is not relieved of the responsibility for traffic avoidance. What precaution must be taken while the engine or engines of any aircraft are left running while the aircraft is on the ground? The pilot's seat must be occupied by a person competent to control the aircraft. Given the average fuel consumption, 4 gallons per hour, the total flight time is 30 minutes. So that's 2 gallons. Takeoff, taxi, and climb is 2 gallons. What is the required fuel for this flight? It says 4 gallons. This must be for a ultralight. Which statement is correct with regard to the advisory airspace? Pilots of participating aircraft and pilots flying through the area are equally responsible for the collision avoidance. If a mandatory frequency is in use, pilots departing VFR shall monitor that frequency until the aircraft is beyond the specified distance or altitude. When operating within Canadian airspace, what is the main exception to the requirement for filing a flight plan or flight itinerary? When making a VFR flight within 25 nautical miles of the aerodrome of departure. During cruise in flight in a standard pressure region, what barometric pressure shall be set in the altimeter? 29.9. What is the significance of a series of red projectile lights? Whether by day or night, notwithstanding previous instructions, means do not land for the time being. An ultralight aeroplane may be operated within a control zone when the ATC unit is not operating if permission has been received from the airport operator. The selection of a cruising altitude in the domestic airspace should be based on the magnetic track. When two aircraft are converging at approximately the same altitude, the aircraft that has the other on its right shall give way. The imaginary line extending from the leading edge to the trailing edge of the wing is called the chord. Which of the following angles is varied by the pilot, thereby determining airplane performance? The angle of attack. Aspect ratio is the relationship between the wingspan and the wing chord. As more weight is carried in an aeroplane, the indicated stalling speed will increase. Power off stall speeds at maximum weight are shown on the airspeed indicator by colored reference markings. The slow speed end of the white arc represents the indicated stall speed with flaps extended. In a straight, constant climb, the magnetic compass in an aircraft functions satisfactorily. During a turn coordinator provides an indication of the movement of the aircraft about the yaw and roll axis. Which instrument will become inoperative if the pitot tube becomes blocked? The airspeed indicator. The altimeter displays the aircraft's altitude in feet. Upon what basic principle does it operate? By measuring changes in atmospheric pressure as the aircraft climbs or descends. An aeroplane entering turbulent flying conditions should be slowed to maneuvering speed. Select the statement below which can be correctly related to maneuvering speed. Maneuvering speed is given in the pilot's operating handbook. Which type of altitude is the final determinant of an aeroplane's performance? Density altitude. The altimeter setting when departing on a cross-country flight is 30.16. Assume that no altimeter correction is applied and that the altimeter setting at the destination airport is 29.91. If the destination field elevation is 432 feet, what will the altimeter indicate upon landing? The departure altimeter setting was 30.16 and the destination setting was 29.91, so we're flying towards a low pressure area and the pressure difference is 0.25 or 250 feet. On landing, the altimeter would indicate 250 feet higher than the actual elevation, so 432 plus 250 equals 682. If an aircraft is equipped with a controllable pitch propeller, when is full fine pitch used? During the initial stages of takeoff. The most commonly recommended practice for reducing risk of dirt and water entering the engine is to strain fuel from the oil speeds in the system prior to each flight. The continuous use of having an octane rating higher than that specified for a particular engine may result in fouling of spark plugs. When air temperatures are well below the ICAO standard, a pilot planning for a flight over mountainous terrain should be aware that the true altitude will be lower than the indicated altitude. Which conditions will reduce aircraft takeoff and climb performance to the greatest degree? high temperature, low pressure, high humidity. What is the difference between a controllable pitch propeller and a constant speed propeller? A constant speed propeller automatically adjusts its blade angle to maintain a constant RPM. The type of propeller giving both good climb and good cruise performance is a constant speed propeller. After the passage of a cold front in the northern hemisphere, what pressure and wind direction changes take place? The pressure rises and the wind will shift from west to northwest. How is a cold front formed? A wedge of advancing cold air forces its way under and replaces the warmer air mass. Isobars drawn on the surface weather charts are lines of equal pressure. The appearance of cirrus, cirrostratus, altostratus, and nimbostratus in succession over an aerodrome normally indicate that a warm front is approaching. Which type of cloud indicates the presence of significant vertical currents at low levels? Cumulus. The part of a frontal system along which cold air is retreating is called a warm front. What conditions are necessary for the formation of thunderstorms? High humidity, unstable air, and a lifting force. Which of the following is not characteristic of stable air? Good visibility. Which of the following is frequently associated with stratiform type clouds? Fog and low clouds with poor visibility. An airport near sea level has a surface temperature of 15 degrees Celsius. Using the standard lapse rate, determine the lowest altitude at which freezing temperatures should be expected. 15 degrees divided by 2, because it's 2 degrees per 1,000 feet, so it was 7,500 feet. HEF. If a small spread exists between temperature and dew point, what should the pilot be on alert for? Fog or low clouds. How is frost formed? Water vapor is deposited directly to a solid state. Heights in Canadian Aerodrome forecasts, TAF, are given in feet AGL. A meter indicates the weather observed at a specific time. What does VV003 mean in the Winnipeg CYWG meter? Vertical visibility 300 feet. At Winnipeg, the 2 Zulu winds are forecast to be 130 degrees true at 5 knots. In this GFA, the letter A over Hudson Bay indicates few stratus ceilings from 800 to 1500 AGL, giving visibility from 2 to 6 miles in light snow near open leads. The Brandon CYBR meter reports an altimeter setting of 29.99. The Portage CYPG temperature dew point spread is 4 degrees. Assume an aircraft is on the magnetic heading of 180 degrees. Which of the following indications with respect to northerly turning error will the pilot see as he begins a left turn toward the east? The compass will indicate a turn in the proper direction, but will lead the actual heading throughout the turn. Which of the following would cause the greatest compass error on the long east-west cross-country flight? Variation. On aeronautical charts, An isogenic line joins areas of equal variation. The star on the southeast edge of the Kingston Airport indicates a rotating beacon. Assume the following weights for a cross-country flight. Basic empty weight, 1,500 pounds at 40 inches. Pilot, 180 pounds. Front passenger, 175 pounds. Rear passenger, 200 pounds. Rear passenger, 88 pounds. Fuel, 19 US gallons. Fuel allowance for engine start, taxi, and run-up, 7 pounds. What is the maximum amount of baggage that can be carried in the baggage area on these conditions? The answer is 50 pounds. The math is 1,500 pounds at 40 inches. Using the chart gives you 60. 180 plus 75 using the chart gives you 13.25. 200 plus 88 using the chart gives you 21. 19 gallons times 6 pounds gives you 114, minus 7 gives you 107. Using the chart equals 5.4. We have a total weight of 2,250 pounds, and the maximum weight using the chart is 3,000 pounds. So there's 50 pounds that remain for baggage. Using the following information to determine if an aircraft is within its weight limits. The basic empty weights, 1,500 pounds at 40 inches. Pilot, 180 pounds. Front passenger, 175 pounds. Rear passenger, 150 pounds. Fuel, 48 gallons. Fuel allowance for engine start, taxi, and run-up, 7 pounds. The answer is yes, it's within its limits in the normal category. You have to take the pounds times the inches, which will give you the thousands of pounds, or yeah, I don't know the term. Anyway, you figure it out. Winnipeg, VNC. Assume the following conditions for the flight from Boysenvain, Manitoba to Dauphin, Manitoba. Cruising altitude, 5,500 feet. Wind, 320 at 17 knots. Temperature at cruising altitude, 5 degrees. True airspeed, 87 knots. Deviation, -3. Use the navigation log for these questions. What is the initial compass heading for the trip? Correct answer is 342. Based on a cross-country information, what is the flight planned ground speed for the flight? 73 knots. Using the previously computed ground speed, what is the minimum usable fuel, including reserves, that must be carried for the trip if the aeroplane consumes 7.8 gallons per hour? Assume no extra fuel is needed for the ground operations, climb, or let down. So the answer is 15.7 gallons. Assume the pilot is flying at 5,500 feet ASL over Brandon Airport en route to Dauphin. What radio contact should be made, if any? The pilot may transit the area without contacting anyone, but should monitor 126.7. Magnetic variation is the angle between true meridian and magnetic meridian in which the compass needle lies. Near the magnetic poles, the compass will be unreliable. Assume the following conditions. VFR flight plan, true track 357, wind correction angle -5, deviation -3, variation 10 degrees west, If the pilot is planning to fly more than 3,000 feet AGL, what altitude should he fly? The answer is odd thousands plus 500, derived by because for this question they're given lots of extra information. All we really need is the true track and the variation. So 357, and then because the variation is 10 degrees west, we add that, so you get 367. All values from 0 to 179 follow the easterly route, which is odd plus 500. Remember, odd is, or east is odd, west is odder. Which publication contains airport information for licensed airports in Canada? Canadian Flight, something like that. What is the 0 degree line of longitude called? The prime meridian. How is westerly variation applied to a true heading to obtain the magnetic heading? It is added. In the northern hemisphere, a magnetic compass will normally indicate initially a turn toward the west if a right turn is entered from a north heading. In the northern hemisphere, a magnetic compass will normally indicate initially a turn toward the east if a left turn is entered from a north heading. Which airport is located at approximately 510603 latitude and 1000309 west longitude using this map? The answer is Dauphin. VNC navigation charts are based on Lambert-Conformal conic projection. If a pilot changes the altimeter setting from 30.11 to 29.96, what is the approximate change in indication? The altimeter would indicate 150 feet lower. That is practice test 2 concluded.
Cool.